Today we're feeding a crowd for cheap. We're making pulled pork and homemade coleslaw. Stick around to find out how. Alright guys, we've got a huge piece of meat here. This is a whole bone-in pork picnic. It's almost 10 pounds, it's 9.84 pounds, and it was just under 20 bucks for almost 10 pounds of meat. We're gonna turn this into something awesome today. Let's get started. Starting off with some onions here. Just gonna top and tail these. We're gonna use these in the bottom of our baking tray as like a trivet, just to keep the pork up off the bottom of the pan. I'm not gonna show here, but I'm also cutting up some apples that I'm gonna throw in the bottom too. These are gonna go for a while. They're gonna get all creamy and caramelized, and they're gonna be delicious. We're gonna mix them back into the pulled pork at the end. Now I'm working on some garlic. We need a few cloves of garlic here for the marinade that's going to go on the outside of the pork. I'm getting started here the day before. I like to let this go at least overnight in the fridge. And you'll see here in a little bit as we start to put together the marinade what we're going to slather all over this thing. So I'm starting with paprika. The full recipe will be linked in the description of the video, but the main basis of the rub or marinade here is smoked paprika. I'm also going to go in with some light brown sugar. Smokiness of the paprika and the sweetness of the sugar really play nice on the pork. Also going to smash these cloves of garlic through this garlic press. If you have one of these, they're awesome. If not, just smash them up and dice up that garlic as fine as you can get it. Going in with a heavy pinch of kosher salt. And then I'm going to bring it all together here with some extra virgin olive oil. It's really going to cause all the flavors to blend and give us a nice medium, nice paste to slather all over this big piece of pork to get the flavors going here. Here you can see the apples I talked about earlier, along with the onions. Just kind of lying in the bottom of that tray, giving a base or a trivet to keep that pork up off the bottom of the pan. I'm also going to go into the marinade with some fresh thyme sprigs. Gives a nice scent as that's cooking. I'm going to throw a few in the bottom of the pan here as well, just to start working the flavors from the bottom up. One last mix, make sure everything's incorporated. Then I'm going to get the meat in the pan, double check and make sure it fits, which it does. And now I'm going to go right over the top with that marinade we put together. No polite way to do this. So once I get this in here, I'm just going to go in with my hands. You can wear gloves if you want, but I'm going for it. Make sure you get every piece of the meat covered. And then I'm going to cover this with tin foil, and the hard part's over. I'm going to put this in the fridge for at least 24 hours. 48 hours would be fine too, it would be even better. And we're going to let the fridge do its thing, let all those flavors mix together, and everything really marinate that meat nicely. So this is going to go in the fridge, and I'm going to get started on the coleslaw, which I also like to do at least a day in advance. So I got one medium-sized head of cabbage here. I like to cut out these roots. I'll show you how to do it. You don't have to, but I just find it nicer. It keeps the consistency of everything else the same. So I use my chef knife there. You could also use a paring knife. I'll show you here too. Just get most of it out. It doesn't need to be perfect. Next, I'm going to switch over to a mandolin. You could just as easily cut this up really thinly with a knife. But I find when I'm doing a lot of it, like we're doing here, I like to use the mandolin slicer. It just keeps everything really consistent. Get a really fine cut. And it's really just the best way to do it. Put a sheet pan down on the bottom just to try and collect as much as possible, but as you'll see, and as you're probably used to so far in these videos, I'm going to make a mess one way or the other. This just helps me kind of keep everything in one spot. So, using the mandolin, if you're using one, don't be like me. Use the guard, protect your fingers. These things can nick you in a hurry. They're super sharp, super good at cutting. But that also means they're pretty good at cutting your fingertips too if you don't pay attention. So I don't like to go really heavy on carrot, but I usually take a carrot and take a little hand slicer or hand peeler here and get a couple shreds in there. This is more, not so much even for flavor, just more for color. I like seeing a little bit of orange in there. I think it's kind of like a classic look for coleslaw, and that's the way I'm going to do it here. Now I'm going to start working on the brine for the coleslaw. I'm shredding an onion here as fine as I can using like a cheese grater. I want this to be like a paste. You could use it on a bigger box grater if you'd like, maybe a little bit easier, or even really get after it in a food processor. I just find these little graters are the quickest way to get the desired consistency I want. It's almost like an onion paste. This is a little annoying and takes a bit of time, but you'll find it's really a difference maker. If you're from the Northeast and you're used to getting coleslaw at like a deli or something like that, almost all of them do it this way. This onion's really going to help set up the rest of our brine here. So to the onion, I'm going in with some light brown sugar, some neutral oil. I'm using avocado oil here. Also some distilled white vinegar and some water. That's all the liquids. Next I'm going in with some ground white pepper. I went a little heavy here. I like a lot of pepper. I would back off on this a little bit if you don't, or ease your way into it. And lastly, going in with some kosher salt. And then I'm just going to mix it up and get it all dissolved and distributed. Takes a little time to dissolve the sugar, so give it a good whisk. Take your time here. Make sure everything's nice and dissolved. It's going to help. Once that's good, I'm going to incorporate it into the cabbage that we sliced earlier. Just dump it in there. And then I'm going to take my tongs and give it a really good mix. This is going to go for at least 24 hours in the fridge. So we want it to be really covered evenly and distributed evenly. And one thing I'd suggest here too is about halfway through, or maybe the night before when you go to bed, take it out of the fridge and give it another mix just to make sure everything's getting coated evenly. I just did it before I went to bed. Now wrap it up, get it in the fridge. Most of the hard work's over. So now it's the next morning. I pulled out the pork for about 30 minutes to get the chill out of it. And I'm putting some stock around it just to give it a little bit of liquid to help make sure it stays nice and moist as it cooks. Set my oven here to 280 and we're going to go for about 7 hours and check it. Here's what it looks like after those 7 hours. You can see everything's pulling apart. Meat's pulling from the bone. Still nice and juicy. This is going to be really nice. So I give it one little baste or slather here, and then I'm going to put the tin foil back over it and let it sit for at least an hour just to kind of chill out a little bit, retain all that moisture. I like to put even like a little cloth on there to make sure it doesn't cool too fast. This is going to stay really hot on the stove here for a while for you. So let that chill out before you pull it. Let's go back to the coleslaw. So here it is the next day. Everything is nice and brined, but you'll notice it released a lot of liquid as well. So drain that liquid out. I like to transfer it to a new bowl. And once the liquid's drained and in a new bowl, I'm going to toss it at this point with some mayonnaise, just a little bit. And I'd caution against going in with all the mayonnaise in the recipe right off the bat. Every batch is going to react a little bit differently. So I like to get this squirt mayo and kind of go in a little bit at a time. You can always add more in, but it's really hard to take it away. So keep going until it gets to your desired consistency. I don't like it super mayo-y, so I usually have to work my way into it. Doesn't need to be re-seasoned. Everything's really nice and seasoned from that brine and going overnight. So this is really nice. You guys are really going to like this recipe for coleslaw. So here's a pork. After I let it rest, I pulled it and I shot it with a little bit of barbecue sauce and salt and pepper one more time just to give it a little bit more kick. It's a lot of meat there. And I only let it brine overnight. So just for a little bit more flavor, and my family likes it a little barbecue-y, I guess would be the term. I squirt a little bit in and mix it up. And here's the final product. I was just serving it on nice little fresh buns with the coleslaw and the pulled pork, and these little sandwiches are awesome. And you have a ton of them here to feed a huge crowd. So give this a shot, like and subscribe, check out the rest of our videos, and we'll see you next time.